We hear you.
All right. I'm kind of enjoying this part of the book a bit. We're going through all of Mother's circle, person by person at this point. So we're on Yoganma today in Sri Sharda Devi and her Divine Play on page 774, just starting the section called Golap. And last week we were talking about Yoganma. Wow, and that was amazingly inspiring that she basically walked off the planet in full consciousness in a state of jnana, a state of knowledge. Even saying that gives me a flutter inside. What a power. What a power. I just, yes, indeed.
And especially Maharaj, when she was the one who had the baby Krishna, right? Like
Yes.
in so much of bhakti, and yet she passes away in jnana. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's just, yeah, she was a disciple of Thakur, you know.
Yeah.
Thakur is the one that taught us the highest goal of all of them. We're on page 774, Anna. Uh, that that I think as my understanding thus far is that bhaktas in a unique sort of way seem to get to have a choice at how they're going to spend eternity, which seems like an odd thing, which is why I give it that little preface, like at this point in my understanding, because of that whole thing about places in the ocean where the ice never melts, where Thakur seems to suggest that one can taste sugar for eternity rather than being sugar. Um, and Vivekananda sort of also talks that way. He says that when you worship in the shrine, if you worship the image as the image, that will take you to the loka. So if you look at that, if you worship the picture and see Thakur just as the picture, then that goes to the loka, to Ramakrishna loka, or to a heaven, as it were. But if you worship, he said, if you look through the image to the divine behind it, that will take you to moksha, to freedom, which is quite different. So no worries. All right, Golap Ma. Golap Sundari Devi, known as Golap Ma, was born in a Brahmin family of North Calcutta sometime in the 1840s. This is funny, not funny, but interesting as a Westerner, as an American. I've met a few Indians that don't know their birthdays. Actually, the first person that I met like that was Kumar in the DC Center. And he said that when they came through and they were doing that ID thing, that basically the administrator in town just said everybody who lives on that side of that street is born on this year and this day, and everybody on this side is going to be born on this year at this date. And so they just assigned everybody two birthdays, one of two birthdays in the whole town, to start the records because, and he didn't know how old he was, which I had a couple of great meditations about that, about what would it be like to not know how old I was. I mean, I have known how old I am ever since I was born. There was no way to escape it. And that definitely made a difference in my life. Knowing what age you were set your expectations for what was normal and what would happen at that time. At 16, I got my driver's license. At 18, I was an adult. At 21, I could have a drink, and all of those markers when I turned 30, oh my God, I'm over 30. I turned 40 and I was like, oh, that's not too bad. Then I turned 50. I was like, I'm almost dead. 60, I'm again at, oh, that's not too bad, but I'm only 10 years from 70. And what it would be like to not have that marker, to what a freedom that would be, to be like, well, I don't know how old I am. And yeah, so here's Golap Ma, not knowing exactly when she was born, not knowing how old she was, but she was at least 10 years older than Holy Mother. Her parents arranged her marriage to a poor Brahmin when she was young, but her husband died after a few years, leaving her with two small children, a son and a daughter. When Golab Ma's son was still very young, he also died, and her mainstay in life then became her daughter Chandi. She was a charming and beautiful, well-mannered girl. When she grew up, Golab Ma arranged her marriage to Surinda Mohan Thakur, an eminent and wealthy landlord of Calcutta. But fate was again cruel to Golab Ma. Chandi died prematurely, creating a tremendous void in her mother's life. Wow, that's that's a tough life there. I've only known a few people who had children die, and it's a very unnatural thing that a parent watched their children die, something no one expects. Golab Ma cried. She cursed herself, but could find no cure for her grief. Yogan Ma, a neighbor, came to her aid. Seeing Golab Ma's terrible suffering, Yogan Ma took compassion on her, and one day in 1885 took her to Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar. So you see, this is that way of holding on to faith in times like that. You know, I was sitting there and thinking about that today, trying to keep my mind above, just reading all this stuff that's going on in the world and getting pulled into it and just thinking, my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then just caught that angst in myself and caught how I had fallen into the narrative that I had not stayed above and stayed as a monk, which is just my own way of being a monk, just to kind of stand and hold myself as a watcher above the big picture and not letting myself get caught in that, in the particulars like that. And yes, and so keeping that neutral state, not even a neutral state, it's a joyful state, because in that big picture you can always see the divine. You can always see how things play out as they play out in the right order at the right times, and that no suffering is permanent, and no delusion is permanent, that, things have their place in time, and they're always beautiful. They're always there for the best. Sometimes that's a terrible and dark beauty, like a beautiful lightning storm over the ocean, and sometimes it's just straight up beautiful, like a 70-degree day. But Golab Ma here is going and just this cursing herself and weeping like this, but that is her door to Sri Ramakrishna, which is enough to cover any sorrow. Shadala reminisced, Golab Ma's daughter Chandi was a beautiful girl. Seeing her beauty, Raja Surindra Mohan Thakur married her, spending a lot of money. Chandi would visit her mother from time to time during the day. She sent a pension to her every month. Chandi died after giving birth to 2 sons and 1 daughter. The sudden death of Chandi was a terrible blow to Golab Ma. She almost lost her mind. Sometimes she would sit alone on the bank of the Ganges. During this time, Yogan Ma met her and took her to see Sri Ramakrishna. Then the master introduced her to Mother, saying, "This girl will stay with you and serve you." Golab Ma later described her first meeting with the master. "When I first went to the master, I was tormented with grief for my daughter, Chandi. Yogan Ma took me to him. He touched my head and removed all the grief from my heart. It was amazing. In a moment, my mind became calm and serene. I immediately laughed like a Gyani. I felt that I had come to this world to act in a play. Who is whose mother and who is whose daughter? In my childhood, I had played with cloth dolls, and after that I played with flesh and blood dolls. This world is nothing but a play with dolls. So why should I cry for my daughter? It is a glorious thing to cry for God." Such was the power of the master. Wow. After Golab Ma had unburdened her heart to Ramakrishna, he said in an ecstatic mood, "You are fortunate. God helps those who have no one to call their own." After a few visits, Ramakrishna introduced Golab Ma to Holy Mother, saying, "You should feed this Brahmin girl well. Sorrow is assuaged when the stomach is full. Ramakrishna knew that when he was gone, Holy Mother would need a companion. So one day he spoke to her about Golap Ma. Keep your eyes on this Brahmin woman. She will live with you permanently. I want to go back and look at that there, what Ramakrishna says in that second sentence. After Golap Ma unburdened her heart to Ramakrishna, he said in an ecstatic mood, "You are fortunate." Can you just digest that for a moment? She has come to him. Both of her children have died. She's cursing herself and weeping. And he comes, and his words to her is, "You're fortunate." Unbelievable. And then he says, God helps those who have no one to call their own. This, and immediately when we read that, we think, oh gosh, that disqualifies me. I have plenty of people to call my own. But see, that's just a matter of discernment. It's not a matter of condition, right? The real truth in this world is no one has anybody to call their own. Everything passes here. Everything goes. Everything is temporary. And to call anyone our own is a delusion. Ramakrishna tells several of those stories. Remember where he said where that one man, he wants him to be a monk, or it's a story about a man anyway. And the man says, no, no, I can't go. My wife loves me so much. And his guru says to him, do you want to see how much she loves you? Right? And he tells him, I'm going to give you this pill. You take this pill and your body will be as if it is dead, but you will be aware of everything. And so he takes that pill, right? And he finds out, and everybody in the house is weeping. His friends are weeping. His family's weeping, and the guru shows up, comes in the house, and everybody's weeping, and they're asking him, "Can't you save him? Oh, he's died. He's died." And he says to them, "Oh yes, I can save him. I can bring him back to life, but the cost is one of you will have to die in his place." And so goes around the room, and of course his wife is like, "Oh well, I've got the daughter. I have to take care of our children, and oh, who will the I know I can't possibly." And it went from person to person, and everybody's like, "Oh no, and I couldn't possibly do that," right? And then when the guru finally says, "Fine, I'll just take him with me. I'll take care of the situation," and the body's stiff like in rigor mortis from the pill that he took, and they can't get him out the door. And so he suggests, well, let's cut the doorpost down and then we can fit him out of the door. And his wife is like, oh no, what will I do then if you cut my doorpost down? Can't we just cut off a limb? He doesn't need it anymore. Surely that won't be a problem. And so when they get the body outside, the guy and the guru brings the man back to life again. The man says, "Oh, what is this attachment that I have endured?" He says, "Let it all go away." And he renounces the world and goes off with his guru. And so this is the truth, It's a hard truth, but not when you realize that God is behind all of this, that the love that you're looking for is not in the particular. It's in the universal, and it's everywhere, right? And so it's not in temporal things that we clutch onto that are limited and small. It's not like floaties on our arms in an ocean. This is a full-on continent, of love that we get to live in like that. And so when we come to realize, when we see that we are alone in this world, we came in alone, we'll go out alone most likely, that is a blessed place to be, because then he says God takes care of those who have no one else, right? Who are not depending on anyone else. And if we do think we have others and we depend on them, then Mother lets us depend on them. We have stories about that as well. So you are fortunate, for God helps those who have no one to call their own. Holy Mother gave shelter to Golap Ma, who thenceforth began to stay with her off and on at the Nahabat. Golap Ma was Holy Mother's Vijaya, and following her like a shadow for 36 years. So she was one of the holy companions, which means she'll probably be coming back again when Mother comes again. She went on several pilgrimages with Holy Mother to different holy places in India, including Deogar, Puri, Prayag, Hardwar, Rameshwar, Kailur, Kotar, and other places. Golab Ma also accompanied her to Jairambati and Karmarpur many times. Holy Mother used to say, I cannot go anywhere without Golab. I feel secure when she is with me. Whenever they went somewhere by carriage, Golab Ma held the mother's hand as they got in and out. When they walked anywhere, Holy Mother walked behind Golab Ma like a bashful new bride. In the mother's Calcutta household, Golab Ma acted as a supervisor and also protected Holy Mother from emotional and temperamental devotees. Without a thought for herself, Golab Ma faithfully and joyfully served the Master, the Mother, and her devotees for a period of 36 years. Wow, can you imagine being a companion of Holy Mother for 36 years? To be in the face of that kind of love and constant service. Wow, no wonder they have such beautiful deaths. There's also a hidden point here, because when we read that verse about you're fortunate if you have no one to call your own, in one sense, then we all sort of immediately figure this or picture this loner, who's just kind of walking off. But then in the very next paragraph, we're getting all this story about how Golab Ma was so close to Mother, and Mother said, "I couldn't do without her. I took her everywhere." Right? And so it's that ability to attach in this world and the ability to detach. And we see that in the last days of Holy Mother when she sent everybody home, sent everybody out of the room and wouldn't let anybody come into the room to visit her. She had that power of detachment when it was time to go. It was absolute. No worries. Time to go. That's the reality. But when she was here, she had that deep power of attachment, which means she could really love in that very personal way and feel that pain, feel everybody's pain, and take those burdens on. But when they left the room, she could be back full and complete. So this is the meaning, that when we have God as our own, then when we attach, we're attaching to God in that person, right? And when we detach, we're attaching to the God in our person, right? And so that's the meaning of your attachment and detachment. Attachment is to see God in that which you're attaching to, and to detach is to move that God within yourself and to be detached from everything outside like that. It's an interesting thing. And when I was learning puja from Swami Prabhupada, he was saying it that when the puja first begins, that the first thing you do is you ask the divine, you ask God to come out of the heart and to enter into the image in the shrine in front of you so that you can worship her or him, and give her the candles and the incense and sing her songs and do poetry and however you're going to worship the divine. And then when it's all over, you ask the mother again, come into the heart, right? Just like Kali Puja tonight, actually. Oh, is it tonight? Tomorrow night, I think. No, tomorrow night. Maybe it's tonight. Anyway, the Kali Puja, is that tonight? I think in Hollywood it's tonight. And then the next later in the week, it's they take mother out and immerse her in the ocean, on the boat.
It is tonight, Maharaj,
Okay.
in Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having it here in Portland too.
Beautiful. Nice. Yeah. And so you take the mother back into the heart, and then the image is just an image. It's just a clay statue. And you take that and put it in the river, like that. So these are very beautiful and deep ideas that it's always interesting because in a way you're led back to normal life, quote, and where these holy people are not always easily recognized because it's not necessarily what they're doing that's different. It's how they're abiding or how they're being in the midst of all of this, always seeing the big picture and never getting caught in the particular, unless it's got a purpose, unless it's helpful to the other person. in that way. Holy Mother passed away on the 21st of July in 1920. Golap Ma lived for 4 years after that. She continued her service as usual, but she greatly missed Holy Mother. She had a little heart trouble and some minor complications, and gradually her health began to fail. One day Golap Ma told some women devotees, "Yogan died in the bright fortnight, and I shall go in the dark one." Shalala reminisced. Golap Ma was brokenhearted at the death of Yogan Ma. While living in Udbodhan, I used to go to the Nivedita school to give some classes, and Golap Ma would keep food for me. Once I had severe food poisoning, and seeing me ill, Golap Ma's palpitations began. She was scared that I might die. However, Dr. Durgapada Ghosh treated me and I recovered. He suggested to Sharat Maharaj that I should go to Varanasi for a change. Golap Ma again became worried and said, "If she goes to Varanasi, who will look after me?" I said to Sharat Maharaj, "I shall not go to Varanasi." Again, look at these people all taking care of each other like this in their old age. Golap Ma lived in the southern room on the second floor. The day before her passing away, she was gasping. The Ayurvedic doctor came and predicted that she would probably not last the night. In the afternoon, she felt a little better. There was a big picture of the mother in her room. Facing the picture, she prayed to the mother with folded hands. "Mother, tomorrow is your birthday. Please keep me fit." Despite her physical discomfort, she continued repeating Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. On the mother's birthday, there was a 16-item worship in the Udbodhan, and many people took prasad. In the morning, Golap Ma felt a little better and told me, "Shalala, today you will not have to serve me. You work for the mother." She said to Sharat Maharaj, "Sharat, make my bed today in the corner of the mother's room, and I shall sit there." Maharaj made her bed, piling several pillows at her back. The mother's worship was completed smoothly, and Swami Basudevananda came from Bellarmat and informed Golap Ma that the worship went off well there. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Golap Ma said that she was not feeling well. I said, "You did not eat anything the whole day. Now, eat some prasad." I gave her a chunk of orange and she ate it. Facing the mother's picture, she said, "Mother, your worship is over. Now you do whatever you want to do." Immediately, she started to gasp for air. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. Immediately, she started to gasp for air, and gradually the gasping increased. But in between gasps, she continued to utter Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. I could not hold her as I was exhausted. At midnight, Sharat Maharaj took over the duty and asked me to lie down in the next room. It was December in a cold winter. After a few hours, I again took over the duty and sent Maharaj to rest. Thus the night passed. In the morning, Golap Ma said to me, "Ask the cook to prepare some rice and soup quickly for the master." According to her instruction, the food was offered to the master, and everyone had prasad. That afternoon, Golap Ma breathed her last, uttering Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. The monks carried her body for cremation to Kashi Mitra's cremation ground. The next day, I left Udbodhan house and went to the Nivedita school. A few days before her death, Golap Ma said to Swami Basudevananda, "It seems to me that this body will not last long. Quite often I see a girl wearing an ochre cloth and a Rudraksha garland and carrying a trident come out of my body. Then I look at this body and it seems to be dead." Golap Ma died at Udbodhan House at 4:08 p.m. on the 19th of December, 1924. Shadalam reminisced about Yogan Ma and Golap Ma, Holy Mother's two faithful companions. Yogan Ma and Golap Ma were highly advanced in spiritual life, but each had their own unique way of revealing this. Yogan Ma liked to be absorbed in japa and meditation, while Golap Ma liked to be involved with service to Holy Mother and to the devotees. Golap Ma would inquire after minute details as to whether the pillows of the monks were covered or not. Like Jaya and Vijaya, they always accompanied the mother. They made all effort to ensure that her household ran smoothly. I have learned so much from them, and I have received such a wealth of blessings, of love, and of goodwill that I shall never be able to express in words. It's curious there how they, the Ramakrishna order is put together in its structure in two different portions. There's the Ramakrishna Math, which is the monasteries, and the cloisters, where the primary function is to be a monastery and to provide a place for deep practice. And then there's the Ramakrishna Mission, which is our hospitals and our service centers and our orphanages and whatnot, like schools and whatnot, like that. And so the order has these same two halves, a Golok Ma half and a Yogan Ma half, So for those who are doing their deep meditations and then doing service, the two different sides. It's kind of fun to see that mirrored in Mother's Companions. And I never heard that comparison made before. I wonder if that was part of how that came to be. How about that little description there? It seems to me that this body will not last long. Quite often I see a girl wearing an ochre cloth. Okay, so this is that inner renunciation. She's, inside of her with a Rudraksha garland and carrying a trident, coming out of my body. And so this was really her. What she was observing was her true nature coming out of the body, and then she says the body would then just look like it was dead, right? But she was this sadhu, this renunciate with Rudraksha and carrying a trident, come out of the body. Does that sound right, Haima? I saw you have a puzzled face, and I thought maybe
No. It was,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Alright.
it's good.
Very good. And this whole thing here at the end, I've learned so much from them. I have received such a wealth of blessings, of love, and of goodwill that I shall never be able to express in words. I really, that is so true. That is so true. I've just, as I've been here, commiserating my week and, just being fattened up on chicken soup and, and all these, anything that I asked for, everybody has worked so hard to take care of me. And I've had this thought several times in the week, almost to the point of embarrassment of how much love that I've experienced through the devotees of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, and how their own blessings in my own life have been really something you can't name, something you can't express. And I find it interesting that the same reason that you can't express that in words, it's the same reason you can't express your own divine nature in words, is that they are just bigger than everything. Aunt Banu, or Aunt Banu, since we're on the West Coast. Aunt Banu was the mother's childhood companion. Her proper name was Managarabini, which the villagers had abbreviated into Mani and then to Bhani. Holy Mother's devotees converted it into Bhanu. According to the village relationship, the mother used to call her Pisi, meaning aunt. Thus she became Banu Pishi, or Aunt Banu. Holy Mother and Banu were more or less the same age and were close friends and neighbors. Holy Mother's father was the family priest of Chetra Bishwas, Banu's father. When she was young, Banu was married to a man from Puluia Shyam Bazar. I'm just only hoping that I'm getting close to those names. She had a daughter who died at a young age. Banu became a widow at the age of 20 and took shelter in her father's house. She was deeply religious and followed the Vaishnava tradition against her brother's wish. Whenever Ramakrishna came to Kamarpukur from Dakshineshwar, he also visited Jairambati, and thus he eventually met Banu. At that time, the villagers considered the master to be crazy, but Banu recognized him to be a great soul. Banu felt a divine attraction for the master, so she visited him quite often. Other village women also came to see the master. He told funny jokes to the village girls. Some laughed and some went away. Those who were genuine seekers remained, and the master then talked to them seriously about spiritual life. To test Banu's sincerity, the master teased her, saying, "Your brother Gaur is coming." That made her nervous. Then the master told her, "You cannot realize God as long as you have shame, hatred, and fear." He also gave her some advice. When your brother tries to punish you, raise your hands and dance, saying, "Bhaja mon Gaura Nitai," O mind, worship Gaura Nitai. Then your brother will think you are crazy and will not bother you. The simple Bhanu followed the master's advice, and it worked. Banu spun thread on a spinning wheel to support herself. Sometimes the master visited her cottage and sang funny songs to the sound of her spinning wheel. Banu's, that's charming. Banu sometimes stayed with the Holy Mother in Calcutta, and after listening to the story of how the master sang to the whir of Banu's spinning wheel, Nivedita got a spinning wheel and asked Aunt Banu to sing the songs to her. Nivedita was delighted to hear them. I wonder if there's anything around like that, a recording of such a thing. During the master's time, Banu's parents were in good financial condition. They had several cows, and Banu prepared many milk products for the master. Once, while returning from Jairambati to Kamarpukur, the master asked Banu for a betel roll. She immediately went to make the betel roll, but master left for Kamarpukur without waiting. When Banu returned, she found the master gone. It is considered inauspicious to call a person from behind, so she ran to catch up with him. After walking some distance, the master looked back and saw Banu following him. Surprised, the master said, "Aunt, you've come such a distance." She said, "You asked me for a betel roll, and I have brought it for you." The master said with a smile, "You will succeed. You will succeed. You will succeed." What a promise. Banu understood that the master had blessed her and that she would succeed in her spiritual disciplines. After taking the betel roll from her hand, the master said to her, "Because you are a woman and have come alone such a distance, your people may scold you. Now do one thing. Buy an earthen pot from the house of a potter on the way back and take it home with you. They will think that you went to the potter's house." This is interesting. I've never seen that aspect of the master like that. Just understanding things so absolutely clearly, and then giving these fun little ways of tricking the system. Being able to get around it, get away with it. Banu considered that incident to be significant in her life. Later, when devotees came to Jairambati, she invited them into her cottage, fed them fried gram, fried sweet palm cake, and offered a betel roll. Then she would tell stories of the master and the mother. Holy Mother's devotees who came from distant places loved Aunt Banu. Forgetting food and rest, she entertained them by singing the songs that the master had sung, and also kirtan that she had learned in her early years. Observing that the local villagers were not interested in the master, Banu lamented, "People come from Vishnupur, Tamluk, and other distant places, but our local people are ignorant about the master. It is true, there is a shadow under the oil lamp." That's a fascinating thing because Jesus also said the same story. He told his disciples. He says, that a prophet is never honored in his hometown. People just they and there's a lot of teaching, a lot of understanding if you meditate on that. Those things that you become familiar with, you don't see the divine in them, right? You see them as objects, you see them as things, as people, as whatnots, around you. And so to be careful when we become familiar with things, when things become ordinary. I was looking out the kitchen window earlier this morning. Uh, anyway, while looking out the kitchen window, and the ocean looked like it was made of silver. The light was shining off of it and had a beautiful layer of fog that kind of was misting the boundaries around. And I was standing there realizing that it had been looking like that all morning, but that I had not noticed it at all. And I turned to, and kind of just said to Mother in the corner of my mind, I said, what an interesting world where beauty becomes banal and adventure becomes insipid, in that it's just a matter of repetition, a matter of time before the mind no longer sees God. That we just stop seeing the wonder. We start looking at our assumptions rather than the thing itself, no longer seeing the beauty and the wonder of it all. And I just shook my head and told Mother I'm finished with this world. Because really that's the essence of it, isn't it? If you don't live in the moment and see it fresh with God present, then it just becomes a thing, and things can never fulfill us, you know. In 1917, when a large number of devotees began to visit Jairambati, Aunt Banu was in her late 60s. She had a slim body with a dark complexion. She was simple and always cheerful. Wow, what a delightful person. And her dealings with people were frank and loving. She behaved like a gopi of Braja, and she sometimes sang and danced. She gestured with her hands when she spoke and was fond of talking about the Master, about Holy Mother and spiritual topics. She worshipped Ramakrishna every day. If she went anywhere, she entrusted her picture of the Master to Indumati, Bharada's wife, and told her how to perform the worship. Pick up 2 tulsi leaves and offer them at the feet of the Master, saying, Tulsi Patram Ramakrishnaya Namaha. Banu had sincere devotion for Holy Mother. When the Holy Mother was in Jairambati, Banu visited her there in the evenings and talked about their early lives together and about God. Sometimes she rubbed the Mother's feet with medicinal oil. After receiving prasad from the Mother, Aunt Banu returned to her home with the light of the oil lamp. She was very concerned when Mother was not well. She said that she had seen Mother one day as a goddess with 4 arms. She was convinced that the Master was Lord Shiva. She told the Mother, when you sing, I hear the Master's voice. Wow. Holy Mother replied, I don't know, Aunt. You know all of those things. The Master dwells in you, Banu replied. When the Mother went on pilgrimage, Banu sometimes accompanied her. In 1912, the Mother took Banu along on her last visit to Varanasi, where they stayed at Lakshmi Nivas, a house near the Sevashrama. One day, Swami Brahmananda came to bow down to the Mother and began to joke with Aunt Banu. She too was very humorous and sang a song about Gopala. Who has domesticated this black cat, Krishna, in our area? Oh, Lalita, catch him for me. He has eaten curd, broken the jar, and wiped his face on the blanket. While listening to Banu's song, Brahmananda became absorbed in ecstasy, and tears poured from his eyes, wetting his shirt. The Mother saw this and later said to Banu, Aunt, you are not an ordinary person. Rakal is like an ocean, and you have violently stirred him. Once, Holy Mother went with a woman and Brahmachari Gopesh to attend a 24-hour kirtan in the house of a villager who lived on the other side of Jairamati. It was late in the evening. They saw from a distance a dancing light coming toward them. When it came near, the mother saw a lamp on the head of a person. The mother recognized her and exclaimed, "Aunt!" Banu then came down to her normal state. She was returning home intoxicated from the kirtan. She had put the lamp on her head and held it with her right hand as if it were a pot. Her left hand was on her waist, and she was dancing to the melody of the kirtan. Both laughed. Then the Holy Mother bowed down at the shrine of the villager, briefly listening to the kirtan from a distance, and returned home. God, some of these little vignettes are so beautiful. Just to see Banu with the light dancing in the distance, as she's literally dancing with God in ecstasy as she's coming home from kirtan, just not present in this world at all. And Holy Mother sees her and recognizes her, Banu, aunt. And then they just laugh together. So much going on in that scene. And this idea, aunt, you're not an ordinary person. Rakal is like an ocean and you have violently stirred him, that she caused him to go into samadhi, really, into ecstasy because of her devotion. Holy Mother was very fond of Banu and praised her devotion. Once, when Banu was very ill, the mother went to see her. She said, "Aunt, are you also leaving me? If you go, with whom shall I talk?" Banu replied that everything was in Holy Mother's hands. Without saying anything, the mother left. That evening, Banu had a vision. She saw the mother standing outside of her room. The mother extended her hand and put Charanamitra in her mouth, and then said, "Aunt, please drink." Gradually, Banu recovered. Banu was convinced that Holy Mother had saved her life. When she told this to Mother, she replied, "Aunt, it is the will of the Master." Banu said, "One day with open eyes, I saw the Mother as a Devi with 4 arms. When she was facing me, I saw her as Sharada with 2 arms, and when I was behind her, I saw her with 4 arms. After the death of her parents, Banu's financial condition deteriorated. In this world, poverty pounds human beings, but it could not touch Aunt Banu's mind because it was steeped in devotion, intense love for Ramakrishna and Sharada. Banu died not long before the mother's passing away.